Hello and welcome to our biggest layout update show yet. In this feature-packed edition, we're going to be showing you the latest updates on Toplydale, where I started building a quarry scene. We're going to join Mark Chivers for the latest model railway news. Plus, Richard's taken an adventure to the Great Central Railway to find out how that's preparing to reopen later this summer. And finally, to round off this bumper video, we've got a huge crop of new arrivals to show you for double O gauge, including Bachmann's Class 117, Hornby's Large Prairie, Sutton Locomotive Works upgraded Class 24, and a few more things as well. And because this is a big one, we've included timestamps in the description so you can jump around between the sections if you want to. Don't forget that our latest issue of Hornby Magazine is on sale now. That's issue 158, and that's packed to the rafters with loads of model railway content, including great features, inspirational modelling guides, the latest reviews of all the products you can see in the new arrival section, and so much more. Let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome back to the Hornby Magazine workshop. You join me this time on the other side of Toplydale, where we're starting to work on the diversion route. Now, I've got a couple of the new arrivals running on the layout today. We've got a Sutton Locomotive Works Class 24. We've also got one of the new Bachmann Class 117 engines running as well. So they're just going to snake through behind me whilst I'm talking to you about the new project. So the start of work on this has been to put a back seam divider between the scenic part of the layout and the storage yard. So we've got a 10-track storage yard there, which you'll see in lots of other clips of the layout whilst we've been showing it running. And this divide is going to create a nice separation between those two areas. Now, we kept it nice and low as well. And the reason for that is I still need to be able to reach over into the storage yard for stock measurement things as well. But it does mean that then also when we're doing photographic work, from certain angles, from pretty much all angles actually, you get a nice pure white backdrop here, which is really nice and useful for us as we get into work on video and photography work here as well. So the concept has always been that there will be a double track main line snaking through this section. It's quite narrow, it's only just over a foot wide as this area, but I've also been looking at some new options of what I can do with that as well. So just give you an idea of what's going to go into this scene. And we're going to start at this end where the railway comes out of the tunnel behind me. It then runs across onto the top of an embankment here. Going underneath there'll be a road here, which is going to go underneath the railway, and then it's going to climb across the back, across the bridge at the other end, and then it will disappear off into the hillside. And there'll also be, I'm planning to have a waterfall and a little river scene as well coming over underneath the railway. And then the new addition at the moment I'm just starting to work on, which I'm going to show you on the video in a moment, is the addition of a small quarry scene as well. So that won't be a full quarry scene as such, because I've only got a couple of feet spare to do so, but it'll provide a nice photographic scene, a bit of an area where I can shuffle some industrial locomotives around. I've been working on a track plan as well, which means actually we're going to have a nice yard-long head shunt here, plus probably 2 or 3 sidings in the back there, which will give us probably a yard on each as well. So we're starting to work on that now, and we'll show you progress as we go. So what I'll do now is we'll take you over and show you where the first bits of the new board are going in, and I'll talk about those. So the actual new piece of baseboard is quite small. It's 60 centimetres long, 34 centimetres wide. I've already cut a frame for it, made out the same 69mm by 18mm plains timber I used for the framework of the layout. There's also an extra piece of frame to go across the front here. Once all this is all joined together as well, it'll give a nice bit of strength and keep all this in line where I want it to be as well. So beyond this baseboard here, there's going to be a new section of track deck in front of it as well, which will join it into the main line behind me. And that's going to have a large radius point in there, which will allow trains to leave the main line and propel into the quarry sidings. So what we're going to do, we're going to get this baseboard built, get it set into position, and we can move on to the next stage. So the materials we're using 9mm plywood for the surface, 69mm by 18mm plain softwood timber for the frame, and I'm using 35mm by 4.0 wood screws to join it all together. So the first piece of the jigsaw we're going to put in is a new end panel to go across here. So that's going to sit just along the edge of the wood. I'm going to fix it in place with a couple of 35mm long screws. Sometimes easier just to move that away whilst we run the screws through. Create a fixing point. one in at each end. Line the timber up with those. Third one in the centre. And then to join that to the rest of the frame across the back, just got a pilot hole, a couple of holes through here ready to take the screws. And those just mean that when we run the screws through the end here, it won't split the timber. Hold the frame up in place where we want it. Okay, that's our first piece in place. Now that pilot holing process, we're going to repeat that again on the end timbers for the frame for the new piece. So each one of these two, they go the full width across the ends here. So I have one piece in there. And the second piece will go across the far end. So I've assembled a basic frame for the new board to go in there. So there's 4 pieces of timber for that, and they're all measured to fit the size of the board we've got, which is 34 centimetres deep and 60.8 centimetres long. It's all held together with twin thread wood screws, and as you can see, the new surface will just neatly fit on top of there to complete the board. This time I've made the frame first, so we're going to bolt the frame in place onto the layout, and then we'll add the top on afterwards. So for the next steps in the project, I'll park the trains up because we're going to interrupt their route at the moment. So the junction for the new quarry scene is going to be this large radius left-hand point here. That's Pico Code 75 track to match the rest of the track on the layout. So that's going to be stitched into the track work there, roughly about where it is at the moment. And then what I've got to do next is I've got to create a new piece of timber work here to go across, and that will join the new board I made a moment ago with the original route of the diversion track here. I've also then got an extra piece of timber work to make to support the head shunt there as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to head outside, get some bits of timber cut to shape, and I'll be right back to show you how they all fit together. The woodwork's all now complete for the extension here. You can see the original board I made at the start, then the new section linking that together, and then I've just added in here another small narrow extension on the front of the diversion route there to hold the head shunt for the quarry sidings. So everything's ready there. I'm now going to go and get a coat of paint on this, get it all sealed in so it's looking like the rest of the woodwork here, and then going to move on to start laying the track and joining all that together. So left the paint overnight to dry, and now we're ready to move on to the next stage and start laying the track. Handily the postman's been too, and he's delivered me a Pico 3-way code 75 point. I've also got a roll of Gauge Master 1/16 inch thick cork as well. So that's the same depth cork that I use for all the other track on the layout as well. So now I'm ready to get cracking. Got my tools out, got my Dremel to cut my track, hammer to put the track pins in, pliers to help out where needed, and a tray full of rail joiners. So off I go. So the first step in the process is going to be to put this large radius left-hand point in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark the track for that to go in. I'm going to use a craft knife. Make sure that the tie bar is clear of the baseboards supports. We can use the Dremel to cut that section of track out. Use the craft knife just to make sure the webbing's cut as well. Put the track pins out. Take a piece of track away. So now I need to just trim the sleepers so that the rail joiners fit underneath them neatly. So I'm just going to take off the last 4 sleepers off this section of track. So I've prepared the large radius point with all its rail joiners now. So it's got insulated rail joiners on this connection here, which will go into the main line to lead down to the junction. And then all the other rail joiners are conducting metal rail joiners. So we're ready to insert that into the track. It's a case of lining up the rail joiners at one end. Now what we need to do is make the hole for the tie bar so that I can add a point motor underneath later. So to start, we're just going to make 2 1mm holes through the middle of the tie bar, change the point blades either side so I get the right position for that. Take the point back out now. And positioning the 9mm drill in the centre of the 2 pilot holes are made. That'll give me a space to add a point motor at a later date now. So now I've got the point set in position, and one of the next jobs I've got to do is add in a new power feed for this as well. So at the moment the power feed comes up this line from the junction down the end. So I have to put in a pair of wires to this end of the point, so we're feeding power in this way as well. Before I do that though, I'm going to add in all the other track. I'll do all the wiring at the same time. So for the time being, that's as far as I can go with track laying, because I'm waiting for a small radius point to complete the yard there. Because what there'll be just in the back there, over here there'll be a small engine shed road there for the industrial locos, and then there'll be a third track running into there. And also I can't really do much more with the area over this side until I've actually made the buildings to go in there as well. So it's a temporary arrangement for some track there. The next stage is to start making the buildings to go in there. But what we have got is we've got a set of sidings starting to come together. We've got the point work in as well. We've got the connection back into the main line. I've also got all the head shunt laid as well. So now my next task is to get this all wired up so we can actually get some trains moving on it as well. So from where I left off in the last clip, things have moved on a little bit actually. I had a little sleep, caught my breath, thought about what I'd built so far and decided actually it could be better. So I took out the medium radius point and I've replaced that with a single slip, and that's given me better access and a better track arrangement for the yard here. So we've got space for the 3 full length yard length sidings here. We've also got an extra line now as well for the engine shed, and that's just purely for the industrial locos. Like you see, we've got a couple of packets and we've got a Ruston 48DS on here. And the nice thing about the single slip as well is that it means that to get access to the industrial engine shed, you can't get there from the BR network directly. So you've got to go either into here, back into the head shunt, and then back into the depot line, which also means the industrial locos can be kept exclusive from the national network. So everything's now built and wired. I've got a trio of Gaugemasters auto frogs to power the frogs, the 3 frogs inside the 3-way point here. And I've also got a Tam Valley dual frog juicer here, which is powering the 2 frogs in the single slip. Everything else is live wired, so it's live for DCC. So for example, this track here, it's permanently wired into the DCC feed. Same with this one here. These are all live as well. So wherever I've got sound locos part, the sound will always be able to be active. And I've also added a DCC Concepts buffer stop with working light as well, and that's a nice addition to the end of the head shunt here. So there's obviously a lot more to do here on Top Liddell's diversion extension, and I've got the next phase will be to build the buildings which are going to go behind me here, and they'll start to give a real sense of quarry scene. And there's also a bit of modification of the landscape to take place as well, as I cut that out to make space for all the buildings we're going to build in. So keep up with us in the future editions, either through Hornby Magazine or through the layout update, and I'll keep you posted on that. For now though, I'm going to leave you with a few trains running, and then we're going to go over and join Mark Chivers for the latest news from Hornby Magazine.
Hello. Well, big news this month is that first engineering samples of Hornby's new 00 gauge Thompson A22 and A23 class Pacifics have arrived for assessment by the development team. An early running sample has also been received too. Detailed differences covered include alternative boilers and chimneys, smoke box door layouts and much more. 2 A22s and 4 A23s are planned. Release is expected later this year or early next. Accurascale has released images of the first EP samples of its forthcoming 00 gauge Brush Class 92 Coco Electric. Features include dual motorised working pantographs, power pack capacitors, day and night mode lighting and much more. Work on the model is still ongoing with a number of tweaks identified for the tooling. Delivery is now anticipated for early 2021. Decorated samples of Helian's new batch of 00 gauge cargo wagon bogie box fans have also arrived for checking over. Unbelievably, it's around a decade since these models were last manufactured. 6 different models are planned in pristine or weathered finishes, including a twin pack of barrier wagons in rail adventure colours too. Release is expected during August. Meanwhile, photos of an early hand-decorated sample of Helian's new 00 gauge Class 45-1 have been issued to display progress on the model so far. Livery artwork has now been completed, and following a few tooling modifications, factory-decorated samples should be next. A wide selection of Class 45-1 and 45-0 variants will be produced, together with limited editions for Kernow Model Rail Centre, Olivia's Trains, Rails of Sheffield and the Model Centre. Hornby has announced that it's to produce a 00 gauge model of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway third class open top carriage, hauled by Stephenson's Rocket. Developed and tooled alongside the main release, it was originally intended for announcement later in the year, but it's been brought forward to be included within the Hornby 100 centenary celebrations. As with the first class vehicles, the third class open carriage will also feature etched brass components and separately fitted parts. Priced at just $16.99 each, they're anticipated for release during September and should prove popular. KR Models is inviting expressions of interest for its N-Gauge GWR King project. This new locomotive will utilise near-complete CAD drawings developed for DJ models. Liveries and identities have yet to be confirmed, with prices set at £150 each for DCC-ready models. You can find out more and express interest at krmodels.co.uk. Finally, a new selection of Helian's popular O-gauge split headcode Class 37 Zeros are on the way. 5 new liveries will appear, including 2 which haven't been offered before. Amongst them are a weathered example of Tinsley Depot's 37116 Comet in BR large logo blue and BR green with full yellow ends. And here's a quick clip. Priced at £599 each, they're expected to appear in shops later this month. Now, just a gentle reminder that you can keep up to date with all the modelling news at our website. It's www.keymodelworld.com. All the news, as it happens, keymodelworld.com. Check it out now if you haven't done so already. Right, on to full-size railways now. We're off to the Great Central Railway next with Richard to see how railway preservation is preparing to restart for the summer.
Good evening. The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades, and this country is not alone.
3 months after the lockdown was imposed, the Prime Minister has announced a significant relaxation of the rules in England starting next month. And they include changes to social distancing, as well as reopening some hospitality and holiday venues.
The dramatic economic effect of the lockdown was laid bare tonight, with figures showing that the UK economy shrank by more than a fifth in April. That's the largest monthly contraction ever recorded in our first full month in lockdown.
The Prime Minister has outlined measures to start a very gradual easing of the lockdown in England, while warning of the danger of a second surge of the pandemic.
With the global pandemic, the UK idles by in a state of lockdown. Many businesses and, more importantly, tourist attractions have been forced to close. So this includes the UK's heritage lines up and down the country. Now today I've come to the Great Central Railway in Loughborough to see how they've been coping with the lockdown and how they plan to reopen later in July. So I'm joined by the owner of Tony's Trains in Rugby, Tony French, and also you are a fireman on the GCR.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining me.
Absolute pleasure, thank you for asking me.
What kind of hurdles has the GCR and other steam railways faced during this pandemic?
The GCR, actually, before we start, the GCR has been quite lucky because we run trains all year round. We ran up until, from January the 1st to March the 15th, whereas, of course, a lot of the heritage lines were only just coming back into life. In fact, some of them hadn't even opened yet this year. The Somerset Railway, I think, were planning a big gala event the weekend we went into lockdown. The same weekend we'd have been at Alexandra Palace for Model Railway fans' references. So it's been difficult, and of course, being closed, for all through Easter, Maybank holiday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, with the model event here, War Weekend here is a massive event. I mean, have you been to the War Weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the crowds that turn up, you're running 8 coach trains that are absolutely packed solid. It's almost busier than the steam galas. So to lose events like that has been a major impact on this railway. And it doesn't matter how big the railways are, the biggest railways and the smallest railways have all felt the pinch from this. Obviously, as we just touched on, the GCR is very lucky to be, well funded, well organised, and have had 3 months running under their belt for 2020 before we went into lockdown. But it's really strange being here with in the middle of summer with an empty railway. Really, obviously as volunteers have started to come back on site now, and some of the paid staff have been unfurloughed. Obviously as a small business, we got business grants and stuff. The railway did get the furloughing scheme on the paid staff, which was a massive thing. There was a lot of the lads I know who work here full time were very worried about losing their jobs until the government brought in the furloughing scheme, and the Great Central obviously acted upon that accordingly, as have the Severn Valley Railway, and probably all the preserve lines that have got paid staff, I'd hope, would have acted on that scheme rather than laying anyone off. One advantage of being closed is the amount of infrastructure work they've been able to do here at Loughborough. A lot of jobs, like the repointing of the platforms, have been carried out. bits and pieces, you know, that you can't easily carry out when members of the public are around. And of course, from about May time, we're normally open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the week and weekends. I mean, GCR is one of the few lines in the country that doesn't really close. I mean, it's only midweek in the winter when nothing's going on. There's trains every weekend, there's trains midweek, you know. There's driver experience courses running on Fridays and sometimes even on Mondays, so there's never really a day when nothing's going on site. So all of a sudden there's been a bit of time to crack on with a few jobs, you know.
So the GCR is the UK's only double-track heritage railway and one of the big destination railways. And like you say, it's been very well organised and is relatively prepared, as you can be, for this pandemic.
Yeah.
That's not the case for some of the smaller heritage lines out there.
No.
What's been done behind the scenes while we've been in lockdown to help railways like that?
I mean, a lot of lines obviously have launched a COVID appeal or a support appeal to raise funds. Some lines, actually, some big lines have really felt the pinch, and some of the smaller lines haven't. I mean, as you know, we haven't really had to launch an appeal, but still the GCR are feeling the effect. Whereas lines like the Mid Suffolk Railway, which is a very pleasant place but a very small line, have basically turned around and said we don't need to do an appeal either. Where some lines that you'd regard as big, the Severn Valley, the West Somerset, North Yorkshire Moors, have all launched COVID appeals. And my shop, along with 30742 Photo Charters, launched our own COVID initiative because obviously a lot of people don't know which line to go for. They're torn between, maybe do I give money to the Valley, do I give money to the Great Central, do I give money to the Gloucestershire, Warwickshire. They've all got their favourites, and if they've got 3 or 4 favourites or even more, then which way do they lean? You know, I mean, the Ecclesbourne Valley Railway, for example, we've been supporting them through the appeal, and Linton Barnstable Railway, but what we did was created one sort of pot of money to be spread out between 30 railways. We spread it out between in the end, and we're up to £6,000 now on that appeal, which we aim to support 14 railways with £100 each originally. So you know, it's been quite a successful one as far as we're concerned. I mean, I'm never happy with anything. As soon as we got to 5,000, I wanted 10,000. So if we get to 10,000, I want 20,000. You know, but just nature of the beast, you know.
How have you managed to raise the money for that?
We've basically, Martin from 30742 Charters set up a funding page, and people who go on the charters can send donations via PayPal or Eventbrite. And through the shop, we did a thing where every brand new engine we sold in the lockdown period, we made a donation from that sale. We had support from Chris Eden Green as well, who does Steam Locomotives in Profile DVD series. And every DVD he sold, he made a donation from in the period. And of course that's still ongoing, because even though railways are coming back into play, they still need support. Really, it with no means over at this stage, you know. So yeah, it's been a really positive response to it. Yeah.
It's quite incredible, really, to think that small businesses who are themselves affected by COVID, for example, your shop's been shut to the general public, but you're still able to donate some of that to keep these things alive.
Railway preservation is very important to me. It's something I've been doing most of my adult life, and we wanted to do something positive. And if we made a donation from every sale, if we didn't make many sales, we didn't make a big donation. If we made a lot of sales, we made a bigger donation. If I'd have turned around and said, here's amount X, and then had a really quiet month, I'd have been, you know, thinking, what am I going to do? But luckily we didn't get that badly hit by the closure, because we managed to keep going through mail order and telephone and click and collect and things like that. And kept ourselves heads above water for the period. So it's all worked out relatively well, considering what some people have had to face for all of this. We've been quite lucky, really.
So Tony, you're obviously not just here to talk to me today. You're actually here on a footplate refresher course. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what's involved in that?
Basically, none of us have been here since mid-March when the railway closed for lockdown, and by the time we reopen in July, it'll be 4 months since anyone's been out on the road. Well, I say anyone, there's been guys, obviously we did the run-in at the end of May, the drive-in cinema started running at Quorn, and there's been movements with the DMUs, and the 37s and the 20s done a bit of shunting. But as a rule, no one's really been on the footplate since March the 15th, I think we closed. That's the last time we ran a train. And I myself, my last time on the footplate was March the 1st. So within that 4-month period, you need to have a route refresher day, which is basically where we go along in a DMU unit, like the one we're sat in now, and observe all the signals, bridges, gradient, profile, all that, basically to make sure we're still au fait with where we're going. One thing about the Great Central is, it's obviously, we've mentioned it's the only double track preservation line, and it's the only fully signalled double track preservation line. So compared to other preservation lines, there's a lot of rules, a lot of regulations, and a lot more signalling to know about than, say, the single track lines that are out there. So it's really important to be fully up to speed here and to be fully aware.
So with new COVID rules, obviously your footplate crew on steam engines as opposed to individually crewed on diesels, etc. How will that change? Because traditionally you imagine driver and fireman to be very close together.
Yeah, I mean it's quite a thing. You can't really do a lot about the actual closeness of one another because it's a confined space, as you found last year when you came to film with us. It's you need to be in certain positions at certain times to do your job. Things are obviously personal protection equipment, masks, gloves, that kind of thing. Little things like not sort of shaking hands in the morning and stuff like that. It's getting that out of your system. It's a very strange experience with people you've worked with for 10, 11 years to not have that sort of English niceties, as it were. Getting the engines ready in the morning, normally when there'd be sort of 2 or 3 engines in steam, there's 10, 12 people buzzing around the site. Obviously, to begin with, that's one of the factors in why there'll only be 1 engine in steam to begin with, because you can't all be doing, they can't all be in the storeroom getting oil, you can't be getting your lamps at the same time, getting your wood and your paraffin, because you'd be within 2 metres of each other with no real need to be. So it's more a case of just being, things will be very sort of similar on the footplate, but just more aware of how you position yourself in relationship to your driver. And sadly, for the short term, we won't be able to take any passengers on the footplate with us, which is it's a shame because it's good for the young lads who are coming through and the cleaners and locomotive cleaners. It's good for them to get out on the engine and to experience the footplate ride. It's it can't all be stick. There has to be some carrot, doesn't there? And it's nice to reward them for their hard work. Whereas at the moment, it just can't be done, sadly. But them days will come again. So hopefully they'll stick with it in the meantime.
So with the government easing lockdown regulations, obviously the Great Central Railway is preparing to open again at the end of July. What kind of measures will the public see, or how will it change when they come and visit? It
will be essentially the same railway, but it'll be a lot more formal, probably is a good way of putting it. The key is we want people to come and enjoy riding the trains again. But obviously we've got to be safe, we've got to be socially distant, and we've got to make sure everything's clean and sanitised. So what will happen is you'll board the train at Quorn rather than here at Loughborough, and you'll travel from Quorn to Leicester North and back again, and then you'll be off the train again at Quorn. And while the train comes back down to Loughborough for the engine to take water and run round, a team of the Great Central staff and volunteers will be in the carriages, cleaning all the handles, making sure everything's safe and clean again for the next group of passengers at Quorn. And additional measures will be, people will only be allowed on the platform when the train is ready to board. There won't be people, milling around on the platforms. When you're at Quorn, there'll be, Butler Henderson's will be open for teas and takeaway coffees and meals and things like that. Obviously, you won't be able to go in to begin with, but the garden section will be open, I'd imagine, with the benches, and you can get a drink and things like that, basic refreshments. And there'll be areas, waiting areas in the yard at Quorn before you come onto the platform to board your train. And once you're on the platform, someone from the GCR will show you to your compartment or your seats, rather than in the sort of normal times when you just pick the table that or the compartment you want most. You sort of it's going to be a bit more tight, a bit more regimented, but it's so everyone can remain safe and enjoy the day. And there'll be members of GCR staff in every carriage to basically to help everyone, to make sure everyone's in the correct places, everyone's happy, everyone's safe, to make sure everyone enjoys the day, really. So from the 1st of July, the website will reopen for online booking. Train travel will only be available to those who have booked online. We would ask people not to just turn up on the day, because you will be turned away. It's not the Great Central. It's the policies. It's social distancing. It's to keep everyone safe. We're not just being belligerent. So yeah, from the 25th of July there will be 4 trains a day, all departing from Quorn, all steam hauled, and you can get your tickets online. Come down and enjoy a day on the Great Central Railway.
So with the Heritage Railways opening once again, how can members of the public support their local railway lines?
I think the first thing to do is, when they're reopening, come and pay a visit, have a ride on the trains, use the facilities basically, come and see them basically, show, the big ones and the small ones, if whichever one's local to you, give it your support, and continue to donate online. We're going to keep running the Tony's Trains 30742 COVID appeal, so if your local line's one of the 30 we support through that, keep donating to that. Buy a model engine off me, you get a donation will go through. So yeah, that's there's plenty of ways to support your line, and if you have been to the line and you've enjoyed it, share your experience to Facebook, to YouTube, social media in general, Instagram, whatever suits you. Let people know that your Preserve Railway is open again. Really, I mean, obviously the trains aren't going to be as full as they can be because of social distancing, but the more people turn up, the better it is. The worst thing to be for this railway, and for any other railway, is to run a train with only 5 or 10 people on it, because obviously you're losing money then on the locomotive steaming fees and the coal and all that. So it's really key to support the railways when they do reopen, to make sure they have got enough bums on seats, as it were.
Wonderful. Well,
happy with that?
Tony, yeah, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure, thank you.
So as you've seen, heritage railways across the UK, like the Great Central Railway, are preparing to reopen. So if we want to keep our history alive and these railways running, it's especially important to support these railways in the coming months. So whether that be by visiting a railway or attending an event, as long as we do it safely and sensibly, scenes like this will once again become a common sight.
Welcome back to the workshop for the new arrival section of this layout update. As you can see by the side of me, Top Liddell is absolutely packed to the rafters with new releases. Chief among those are multiple units as well, including a trio of Bachmann's new 00 gauge Class 117 DMUs. On the layout, we've got a original BR green livery unit, and that's an addition to my own collection. Plus we've got a review sample of the Network Southeast livery set, as well as Kerner Model Rail Centre's exclusive limited edition as the chocolate and cream livery set, which was done for the Great Western 150th celebrations in 1985. Joining that at the back of the depot, we've also got a Class 121 in the matching Great Western liveried chocolate and cream colour scheme, and that's another of Kerner Model Rail Centre's limited editions. Now you can read our full reviews of all those multiple units in the latest issue of the magazine. That's issue 158, on sale from July the 2nd. Plus, you can check out a separate video all about the Class 117 showing them running here on Toppledale. And if you're a subscriber to Hornby Magazine and to our new website, keymodelworld.com, you can go and see how easy it is to put digital sound into one of these units as well, as we give you a step-by-step guide on camera to show you how it's done. Next, there's an important new release for steam fans. It's the Great Western 262 tank from Hornby for double O gauge. Now, this has been a missing link in modern models for a long time now. Its predecessor had its origins in the 1970s with Airfix, later went to Dapple, then was part of the Hornby range. And this brand new version, which models both the Collet 5101 and the higher pressure boiler 61XX series, this is a brand new tooling from the ground up, which gives a fresh model for everyone for double O gauge. The first arrival is 6145 in BR Black, and we've had that here running on the test track for our review in the latest issue of Hornby Magazine. It's going to be joined by a Great Western Green livery version as well. Plus, if you're after one of the 5101 262 tanks, there's two versions of those coming as well, one in Great Western livery and one in British Railways Lime Green too. We've also got some seriously high detailed additions from Sutton's Locomotive Works as well, in the form of a trio of their updated Salter Type 2s. Now, a little bit like the 117s, it's a combination of review samples and a sneaky purchase from myself as well. So there's a BR Green one just behind me, that's my own addition to go onto the Toppledale fleet. Plus we've also got the RTC, that's Railway Technical Centre livery version of 97201, and D5021 in the really rather attractive and wallet tempting polyurethane blue as well. Now these are a cut above. They're absolutely stunning models in every way. Their detail is exceptional, their performance is superb, they've got a twin speaker setup in them, they've also got stabilisers built into them as delivered, plus they've got a Zimo decoder which has got a brilliant sound file on it as well. And just like the 117s, there's more video content coming on those soon. If you want to see that first, head over to Key Model World, where it'll be available right now. Plus, if you're a Key Model World subscriber or Hornby Magazine subscriber, you can log into the site and view a fully detailed guide to all the sound functions on these Class 24s as well. And I'm going to take you through each one of their steps and what they can do on camera. Also new in the double O gauge fleet are Hornby's latest Mark III sliding door coaches, and they're finished in the Intercity 7 livery carried by ScotRail units. Now you can see them just along the middle of the formation there of all the trains here, and regular viewers will realise that actually in our previous video on these we actually had one of the coaches the wrong way around. We've corrected that for this here. I'm going to show that running in a moment. So Hornby's produced a full set of ScotRail Intercity 7 coaches which go with their power cars. There's a new set of power cars just being released as well in that same matching livery, so there's plenty of choices to give you your own perfect ScotRail formations for double O gauge with those MTU powered HST power cars. Also new on the layout with a modern slant is the London Transport S-Stock that you can see behind me. Now, whilst it's not exactly a brand new product, it's been out a few years, it was made by Bachmann exclusively for the London Transport Museum. We've got it here today because it's now got a pair of Lego Man Biffo ESU sound decoders fitted to it, and that's what makes it new and worthwhile including. So we've done a full feature in the latest issue of Hornby Magazine, that's issue 158 on sale from July the 2nd, which explains the process we went through to install the sound decoders. That includes installing twin speakers, as well as lighting functions as well.
This train is ready to depart. Please stand clear of the doors.
Now this decoder is really comprehensive, it's got loads of functions on it. It's got all the classics of a London transport scene, including the Mind the Gap announcement, which you all hear when we're on a curved platform. Plus you've got customisable station announcements, and you've also got door opening sounds, lighting functions and more. Now the lighting functions, they're a big step on this because as standard it only has directional lights on these units. So what Lego Man Biffo's decoder allows is for you to add interior lights, arc flash, door opening lights and cab lights on individual functions. Our feature goes through our whole process of doing that and shows how to install that decoder in the units. Also just behind me, over my shoulder, is a Class 37 from Bachmann, another double O gauge one. Now, not exactly new is it again, but this time, again, it's new for me because I've just installed a Zimo MX644 decoder into that, plus a Red exclusive speaker. And we've done a full video guide to installing sound in the Bachmann Class 37 for Key Model World. So if you're a Hornby Magazine subscriber, you can log into the site and check that out and see how we did it. That's all for the new arrival section for this time. Unfortunately, we haven't got any O-gauge in this update, but we will be coming back and hopefully showing you more new O-gauge products next time. If you want to see any more videos individually on each of the models you're seeing here in the layout update, do log on to keymodelworld.com where you can find the latest videos on those and much more as well. That brings us to the end of this bumper layout update. We hope you've enjoyed everything that we've shown you here. And don't forget that our latest issue of Hornby Magazine is on sale from July the 2nd. That's actually right now. So it's in the shops in Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrison's and WHSmiths, plus newsagents as well. Or you can order it online if you can't get to the shops at the moment via shop.keypublishing.com. Inside the issue we've got loads of content for you, including a full feature on Scunthorpe Modern Image Group's N-gauge layout Ely. That's very closely based on the station at Ely in Cambridgeshire, but modelled with a slightly different take and some different rolling stock too. Plus, we joined Orpington District Model Railway Society to see how they've joined both standard and narrow gauge together for their 7mm scale layout Theobald's Yard. If that wasn't enough, we've also got a summer special 15-page feature where we've chosen what we think are the 10 of the best layouts that are featured in Hornby Magazine over the past 13 years. So that'll be a really interesting feature for you, and we'd love to know what you think about that as well. Plus, don't forget, there's all the latest model reviews in there, plus railway history features, step-by-step guides from Tim Shackleton, Anthony Reeves, myself and others, plus loads of other feature news as well. And if that's not enough for you and you need more of your Hornby Magazine fix, don't forget to check in on keymodelworld.com where you can see our latest model review videos there right now. So that includes full videos on the Sutton's Locomotive Works Class 24, Hornby's new GWR Prairie, the Bachmann Class 117, the S-Stock we fitted with sound, and even more besides. Thank you for watching, and we'll join you on the next one. Bye for now.